How are you, group?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Coach, you made a very strong point in there about finishing. How are you going about finishing stronger this year?
You have to go back to discipline first. And we said we've got really smart kids. That's been documented. You can tell by talking to them. So I said, why do we have so many penalties? Maybe it's because we miss an academic session every now and then. Maybe it's because we're a bit late to something. So we have tightened up on every little thing that we're doing, and we've got a leadership committee that's in charge of it in their own units, their own positions. So they handle players when they're not doing exactly what they're supposed to do. So we think that's one thing. We've gone back and looked at every penalty. Most penalties are either holding on offense or defense or pass interference on offense or defense during the game. So we've said you've got to cut out all pre-snap penalties and you've got to cut out all post-snap or post-whistle penalties. So don't have any pushing and shoving and late hits and don't have motion penalties and alignment issues. And so cut out all those and then limit the holding. So we've taken every hold we had last year and we've put it on video and showed them why it's a holding penalty. And then we've started challenging our defensive linemen. You create holds. Don't gripe about being held. You've got to make it so obvious that the official can see it and throw the flag because he's got a lot going on. So that's one thing. Clean up the discipline, clean up the little things, and that'll help us. The second thing we got to do is play more players. If you get hurt at the end of the year, you get tired at the end of the year. We play two linebackers. They play 900 snaps, and they're worn out at the end of the year. They're good players. And then if one of them gets hurt, we don't have anybody ready to play. So we've got to play more players. We've said it for 5 years. We haven't done it. We've got to do it. And that's one thing Jeff Collins is really committed to doing. And we got to have enough guts to put them in. You coaches are so afraid to lose. They don't want to put the backup in. Well, number one, then they transfer because they're not playing. Morale's bad. You're more likely to get hurt when you're tired. And then you can't put your starters on special teams because they're tired. And your special teams aren't as good. So we think all of those things can improve because of those three changes.
You just mentioned Coach Collins. We're ABC out in Asheville. He's got some Western Carolina work. What made that attractive to him?
I knew Jeff from being in TV. I did his Temple games, a number of those. And then coaching against him at Georgia Tech, he's got high energy. He's a guy that pulls everybody together. He's had success at the highest levels as a defensive coordinator at both Mississippi State and at Florida on our level. He did a great job at Temple. He had a tough transition with Georgia Tech because Paul did a great job there, but it was totally different to come in and follow the wishbone team. And he recruited well. They've got good players right now. So when we were on an interview with him, he'd watched every game. He knew what our players had done during the season. He knew the players. He knew them by name. He wanted all the coaches in the interview. And he would say, Tommy Thigpen, linebacker coach, in the West Virginia game, this happened, and I think you can do this better. And he said, I'm just telling you what I see. You got really good players. You guys are doing a great job coaching. You're so close, but a few tweaks. Charlton Warren, your safety, came on the blitz in the West Virginia game, but he came too flat. And that would have been a 2-point play for you with a safety, and then they punt to us. Instead, it's a 90-yard touchdown at the other end. And he said, I want to look very complicated and be simple, but I want to create chaos. And the kids just love him. I've seen him. A receiver will catch a ball on the other side of the field. He'll sprint across the field. He'll chest bump the receiver. He'll say, that's great, man. That's what we need. You're killing our defense, and that helps us. Then he'll turn to the defensive back and say, what are you doing? You're the one supposed to stop him. So he's fun. He's fun, and I'm excited about getting started next week with him.
Mack, you told that story about Coach Bowden and purpose and mortality. I mean, is that where your head's at too? Just thinking about your own mortality, your legacy, purpose?
I don't care about my legacy because it's already there. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, so that doesn't matter to me. In fact, I'm at such a great place. It's not about me, so that's good. It's healthy. And I wouldn't stay too long in my mind. I'll know when it's best for me to quit more than anybody else. Every time you lose, everybody wants you to quit. At my age, I got that. I understand if you're young, they sure want you to quit because they don't want you to be around any longer. So I got that. But as long as I'm being effective and having fun and love this stuff, I want to keep doing it, because probably the next time that I quit will be the last time I'll coach, because I doubt if I'll do it again. When I quit before, I was 67 or something maybe, and I called Dick Vermeil and I said, what do you do? Because he stayed out 16 years and came back and won a Super Bowl, and he said, don't ever say you're not going to coach again, because coaches coach. And you don't know that you might not, and you don't want to be a liar. So I always said, I don't know, and I didn't know. And right now, every recruit that comes in, the first thing he wants to know is, are you going to quit? Because every coach recruiting against us says, I'm going to quit. And 6 of them have been fired that said that already. So they ought to be worried more about themselves. And then Coach Elko said, I'll be at Duke longer than Mack will be at Carolina. And, well, I called him when he went out to A&M and said, okay, you lied. He said, well, I didn't think I was going to. I said, yeah, I got it. I hear all that. And then the second thing they ask is, how much NIL money do I get? So that's my new recruiting visits when I have. But I'm lucky. I'm healthy. I've got lots of energy. I'm having so much fun. And how many people get to change kids' lives every day of their life? I mean, it's just amazing. I have to be careful of what I say to them because they listen. And if you're older, you've got experience. And it's a really good thing, because I've seen most things happen in college football with kids, and so I know how to handle it. The only problem is when you don't have energy. If you can't hang in there with the energy, then you shouldn't be coaching at my age. But if you've got the experience and you're passionate about it and you love it and you've still got the energy, I think it's a cool thing.
Matt, when Jacoby hit the transfer portal, who made the first contact? Was it him or your coaching staff?
He would have to.
You feel you wanted to bring him in?
He would have to answer that, but he and John Copenhaver are so close. I think during COVID they stayed together at John's house for like 3 months or 2 months, whatever that period of time was. We didn't get to be together. So we started hearing that Jacoby would be interested, just from the players. And then when he was in the portal, we called and he said absolutely. And then he had choices. And I said, I want you to come on a visit. I want you to sit down with Coach Christensen, and I want you to sit down with Coach Lindsey, and I want you to be around the players. I want you to be around me again. I want you to start over, because it's very unusual for somebody to come back to the same place they left. And when he got back, he said, I wish I hadn't left. I'd probably be the starting quarterback if I'd stayed. None of that matters. I started here. I want to finish here. And his dad even asked me, what would you do if it was my son? I said, I don't know, because he's missed spring practice. We've got 2 good quarterbacks. I can't answer that. I said, I want him to come, because we've got another very talented quarterback that's experienced, that's sitting there. So when we say we don't have a quarterback, we've really got 3, and all 3 can play. So I'm excited about it. What we've got to do is a great job of separating them between now and game time to make sure that we get the right one on the field.
Mack, what's the most challenging thing from a coaching standpoint about a quarterback competition like this?
A time. How do you practice them? And how do you practice 3? And since Jacoby missed spring, do you let him get in the mix with the other 2, or do you have it a 2-man race with Jacoby hanging in there? But when we were breaking down practice situations yesterday, we've got to put them in as many game-type situations as we can, and then we've got to show them, you've got to do these 5 things to be our quarterback. And you've got to do these 5 things better than the other guy. And then every day we have to tell them, you held the ball too long. You took quarterback sacks. You didn't take, if an offensive lineman misses, I got that. You threw an interception. You can't do that. You got to protect the ball. You got to make good decisions. So we've got to make it very clear, here's what you have to do to be the starter, and then we've got to grade them hard every day and put them in positions where they have to be able to handle those things.
Not necessarily these guys, but how much of a concern is it, especially in the current landscape, is when you pick one as a starter, the other guy decides, you know what, I'm going to go someplace else and take my chances and go into the portal.
Yeah, they can't do that now until December.
Okay, so they got to stick it
So
out.
it's changed. Before they could leave till school started.
Yeah.
They can't anymore. So people used to say, well, you're holding the decision because you don't want them to transfer. That doesn't matter. They can't transfer anyway.
Would you consider sharing game snaps, and have you ever done that as a coach?
I've done it quite a bit, and it's worked every time I've done it. And you don't consider it at this time because you want to have a starting quarterback. What you do is you consider it if you can't choose between the two and you feel like both are good enough, then I think it's a luxury because they're different in who they are and what they do. And if you can make it work for your offensive line, then it puts more pressure on the defense. But we did it with Mike Thomas and Jason Stanisak here. We did it with Chris Keldorf and Oscar Davenport here. We did it with Major Applewhite and Chris Sims at Texas. We did it with Chance Mock and Vince Young at Texas. And then the one that took off ended up being the starter.
Marion said he wants to develop into more of a complete player, versatile, catching the ball. He said he used Christian McCaffrey as an example. Are you seeing any improvement in that area, his game? And
I really have. I think he's already there. He can catch, he can block, he can run. He's very unselfish. I do feel like what we need to do with him, Caleb Hood got hurt last year. British Brooks sprained an ankle, so I wouldn't let him come out of the game. It was my fault. Poor Larry Porter would be saying, okay, Omarion. I said, leave him in. He said, we're at the 20. I said, so he can go 80. The rest of them can't. So we've got to be able to share snaps with other running backs. And I believe we've got some. We've got Caleb Hood. We've got Darwin Barlow. We've got Davion Goss. We've got some new faces that I think will really help us.
well, you're going to have to talk to him because he said he wants to run for 2,000 yards.
He does, and I'm with him. We'll have to talk to Larry.
Hey, Coach, so you always have a look of determination in your eyes, but it's a little different this year, and I can't quite pinpoint it. That's why I've been staring in your eyes so much. But what do you think with the changes you are making that you went over a few minutes ago? Do you think that's what it's going to take to bring the trophy back home to Chapel Hill?
Yeah, when we're 9-1 2 years ago and didn't finish, I thought, well, we just didn't finish well.
Right.
And so let's change a few things. Last year, 6-0, 10th in the country, and we got worse. So it's a problem. It's an issue, and it's the only thing that's keeping us from being where we need to be.
Right.
So I'm so excited about fixing it, and that's what's got me pumped up.
I love it. Thank you so
We got more depth finally. We've been inconsistent at best on defense. We've been inconsistent in the kicking game. I feel like we're going to be better on both of those. We'll be different on offense, but the quarterbacks are good. We've got really good players around them. So I'm pumped. It's on us. It's on us to help them.
You said play more guys, Coach. What are the challenges of the coach with playing more guys? Is it more teaching? Is it more patience? Is it more in-game management? What are the
Yeah,
challenges?
it's a great question, and what I've told the guys the other day is how many can you coach? How many can you get ready to play? How many can you get in shape? And that's a great question. Like at linebacker, we've got 2. Do we need 4? Do we need 5? And do you have 4 with a 5th ready? So that's how many running backs can you play? How many receivers can you play? Because we've got 13 that can probably play. And we've told them, you all have to separate yourselves by showing us that you're going to be better than the other guy before we can separate you.
You were saying just now it's the only thing you need to fix to get to where you want to be? Or were you referring to there?
November, end of the season. And why? Because we're obviously in shape to start the season. We've been great the early parts of the season. We have not been good at the end. Every team I've ever coached has been good at the end. And we got to figure out the bowl games because we've never lost 4 in a row, and our best players aren't playing in the bowl games anymore. So by playing more players, you're going to have somebody more ready to play when those guys opt out, if they still opt out. So those are all things that we're looking at.
Coach, you guys have
ensure this year that that's actually going to happen? You talked about for 5 years wanting to play more players. How do you ensure when games are getting tight in November and October and November that you're actually following through with that? Is that something that you just
It's happened at certain positions. It just hadn't happened at all of it. It needs to happen at all of them. I now have a defensive coordinator that totally agrees with me, and he's going to make it happen. And when you script them going in, it keeps it from being the coach's decision when he gets nervous. If you say this group is going in the 3rd series, if you're not inside either 20, we're putting this group in, then they go in, and he can't stop them. because coaches want to win and they're all paranoid and they're all worried about every little thing that happens. So I've got to help them with that. I've got to make them declare what they're doing, tell the kid what they're doing, and then they have to do it.
Coach, you replaced a handful of starters up front, but you added some transfers and you got a group that you like. Can you talk about what you've seen from that group as you get ready to go into fall camp, and also what does having a running back like as special as Amarion do to kind of smooth things out while you get that group gelled together?
Great running backs make offensive linemen better.
That's right.
It's 100%. And I've seen it way too many times. But you take Austin Blaskey, he's played at Georgia, and he's played a lot, and he's really a tough, good football player. You take Willie Lampkin, he was one of our best linemen last year, and very confident. And then you take Howard Sampson that's 6'8", 325, 330, and he can move his feet. I think he'll be an NFL player before he gets through. Travion Green has really come on. He's 6'8", 360.
That's a big man.
And we were trying to get him to 345. We nearly killed him. And his body mass says he needs to be 360. So we're going to leave him at 360. And then you bring in the transfer from Georgia Tech, Ja'Kai Leftwich. He's 6'6", 335. So we're bigger, we're stronger. We bring in a guy from a Division III program, that Jeff Greenberg, that we're really impressed with. And he can play backup center or guard. If he's good enough at center, you could move Blaskey to guard. So we looked at it yesterday. I think we have 9 that have a chance to play, and we've been playing with 7.
Right.
So we're just finally getting some more depth.
Coach, you talked to me about having that relationship with alumni. I'm curious, do you still keep up with guys like Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley?
Absolutely. I talk to them all the time. And it's usually more text than talk. If
Right.
they'll check in. If they'll, like after today, I've gotten text with them here today, said, I've heard that before, or something picking at me. But absolutely, I text with them all the time, and I know their birthdays and their anniversaries, and that's one of the joys of my life, is to have a family that big.
Mack, you guys haven't won the ACC since 1980, and for NC State it's been since '79. Why do you think for both of those two, the two biggest ACC programs in the state, why has it been such a struggle to break through?
Because Florida State's been better than the rest of us for most of the years that I was here, and Clemson's been better than most of us
Wake and Duke
before
have done it.
and after that, and Wake and Duke have done it, but once. So we need to do better. I think that's important for us. We want to win a championship, and it's probably harder now than it was back then when you added all the new teams. But it's still there for us to do. We had our chance 2 years ago.
It kind of feels like you and State especially take turns being like the it team in the preseason. Like they're getting some hype this year. You guys have gotten it the past couple of years. Does that play into it in terms of expectations, maybe getting in your head a little bit and not rising to the occasion?
I don't know. It's a good question. You all create expectations. We don't. So, I mean, when you look at it, I like where we are now. And we had no expectations when Drake became the quarterback. There was no buzz. We weren't going to be any good and won 9 out of the first 10. So I do feel like we handled expectations better at Texas and seem to have expected it there. We handled them better here at the end because we were always up there. Our team hasn't handled them that well, and it really bothers me. And we've got to get where we need to go, and then we got to win when we get there to expect us to be good enough to be there, and we haven't done that yet.
Is that what's kind of kept you around? You kind of feel like unfinished business? Is that kind of help motivate you to stick around?
There's a number of things that keep me around. As I love the kids, and I don't want to let them down and walk away from them. I love the game. I'm so excited about Sunday. When the kids report, how many people love their job so much that they can't sleep because they can't wait till it starts? I mean, that's telling right there. And then I also want to help college football. There's a lot of things that we got to fix. And I want to help Carolina while we're going through these transitions, because not many of those things that happened have been great for us. And I want us to get where we need to be while I'm here.
So, Coach, one thing, when you were just talking about like Jordan Shipley, so one of your former players back in the 90s will be inducted very soon. Will you be going to Canton to see Julius Peppers get inducted?
Yes.
And do y'all still take stay in touch?
Yes, we do. I can't go to Canton because we'll be practicing.
Oh, fair enough.
But I will go to Las Vegas for his induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. He may be the only one that's ever gone into both Hall of Fames the same year. It's unbelievable.
Really?
I mean, it's unbelievable that he's done that.
Yes.
And he's starting to help us with NIL.
Okay.
I want him to come back around our players because he's one of the best to ever play, if not the best at that position. And I want our guys to get to know him and be around him. I was inducted into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame with him a couple of years ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I'm sending Brian Simmons in my place,
Okay.
along with Dwight Hoyer, because they both know him and Brian played with him. So they're going up to Canton, and then Sally and I will go to Las Vegas.
Now, do you know if his partner in crime, Jesse Holly, will be at either induction ceremony?
I do not. I don't know who's going yet.
All right, sorry, just thought I'd ask.
Nick, the last couple of years, you've been blessed with quarterback play that has been the talk of your team. You've got a decision to make this year, and you've got Omarion now. Omarion, in my guess, would be the focal point of defenses going forward. So how do you prepare an offense where it isn't necessarily quarterback centric?
Yeah. You could say that we were blessed, or you could say that we did a great job recruiting and coaching two of these quarterbacks to get them in that position. It's all a matter of perspective, right? to be fair.
Absolutely.
To be fair, Mark Packer just told me to tell you all when you ask who the starting quarterback is, you'll know when we break the huddle at the first game. And I said, thank you, Mark. I'm going to give you credit for that with every media person that asked me. And absolutely defenses will be focusing on Omarion. They'll stack the box, but it helps your quarterbacks. It makes the passing game simpler when they got too many around the line of scrimmage. And we've got to be smart with it. We've got to spread things out enough because we got good enough receivers. We got good enough tight ends that they can't just focus on Omarion. And then what we've got to do is figure out, is it Max, is it Connor, is it Jacoby, and what do they do best? Are they better with play action? Is it better to protect with play action with Omarion back there? What are his best runs? Because we had great running backs with Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, and we still had Sam, but we ran the ball better then than we've been able to the previous year. And then last year we got it back to it again. So I'm excited about us running the ball better and more, us having fewer sacks, and all of that's going to help our defense too. So sometimes with all the hype at quarterback, they talk so much about quarterback that the rest of the team feels like we're good. Drake will take it, and that's not the case. We've all got to play. And now I think the pressure is on the team and the coaches to play. It's not just on Drake.
Defensively, a lot of the guys are saying we got a chip on our shoulder. It's personal. We didn't hold up as much as we needed to last year. How much of that is coming from the players, and how much are you crediting Coach Collins kind of instilling maybe a different type of demeanor?
I tell them every day that we've done great things compared to the 2 wins and the 3 wins, and we haven't lived up to our expectations, much less our fan base. So they should have a chip on their shoulder. And I said, you've done some really good things, and I went through it. Your academics are good. Your pro guys are good. You've won. You and NC State are the second most wins in ACC games in 5 years. That's all good. You don't get credit for any of it, but it's all good. But you're not going to get credit till you win a championship. You're not going to get credit till you finish, and that's the way the world is now. So grow up, keep your mouth shut, and play better.
Coach, you talked a lot about the receivers. You got a lot that you could pick from. One of them was just from right down the road that you recruited really hard in Jordan Ship. Can you talk a little about his growth in the spring and just what he's been doing to get up to the speed of the college game?
Yeah, I'm very excited about not only Jordan Ship, but Vari Green and Alex Taylor with those young ones. And then you've got the Christian Hamiltons and the Chris Cullivers that haven't played very much either. So we've got our older group with Nate McCullum and J.J. Jones and Kobe Paysar. And then you've got some other guys that are really good that have played some, but you've got to have the older guys run the show and the younger ones grow up. But Jordan's got tremendous hands. He runs very good routes, and he's a lot like JJ, and he's got to learn from JJ.
How does playoff expansion help a program like North Carolina?
I think, Jeff, it helps everybody because everybody wants to be in it. It's a new goal. And now what happens with bowls? I don't know. I'm worried about bowls. And the large majority of the teams that are playing can't get in the playoffs. So they've got to have the bowls as a reward at the end of the year. We want to be one of those teams that's not only wanting to be in the playoff, but win a national championship. We're one of the few teams, one of the 10, 20 that have won so many games, 700 games or something as a program, and never won a national championship in football. So we'd like to do that.
What are some of the positives and negatives about going to 105 scholarships?
I don't know the positives because I haven't heard exactly why. I'm sure it's probably to save money, but I don't know why adding scholarships saves money like that. I'm really concerned that if this passes like we're hearing it will, that we're going to have 35 young people that walked on that will no longer be able to be on our team. And that's not what I like. I'd rather see that grandfathered in and the guys that are currently on your team until that maybe if they don't want walk-ons in the future, at least they will not have made decisions to go to your school and then can't play. So I'd rather see it grandfathered in so those guys can graduate and maybe the structure changes going in for the future.
You think it likely will mean more chaos in the portal? So as tough as Marshall management is now, it would be even harder?
I would think probably so because it's going to be harder to get 100 really good players on scholarship, and you're going to have 20 more on scholarship that expect to play, where the walk-ons don't have the same expectation. So there's absolutely no doubt that those 20 are going to come to play, so that now you've got 11 spots for 105 instead of 85.
All righty. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Coach.